Loving Heavenly Father, we come to you this hour asking for your blessings and help us as we gather together. We pray for guidance in the matters at hand and ask that you would clearly show us how to conduct our work with a spirit of joy and enthusiasm. Give us a desire to find ways to excel in our work. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone, to our October 20th, 2020 council meeting. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Lingo?
Here.
Mrs. Moody?
Here.
Mr. Parsons?
Here.
Ms. Peterson?
Here.
Mr. Redding?
Here.
Mrs. Dosa?
Here.
Mr. George?
Here.
Okay, everyone is present and accounted for. Wonderful. You have before you the minutes from the October 6th meeting. Take a moment and look those over. Does anybody have any corrections or alterations they need to make?
Got one?
Bob?
Okay.
I think I have one thing. Also in attendance, I believe it was Finance Director Scott Bauer, not the Law Director.
You moving on up, Scott.
Isn't that correct? The Finance Director was here last time, not the Law Director?
Yep. We got Scott B and Scott S. Gotta keep them straight.
Okay, need to change Scott Solomon to Scott Bauer.
Yeah.
Any others? And I would ask council for a motion to adopt.
Make a motion to adopt the minutes as amended.
Mr. Redding has made a motion to adopt as amended. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Peterson? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Correspondence, do have a letter that was on your desk from Miss Arnett. Would like to read this just to put it into the record. Dear Mount Healthy City Council members, I'm submitting this letter for the public input portion of tonight's meeting. I ask that you read this letter into the record to ensure that all council members actually hear and consider my concerns. I live at 7373 Hickman Street since 2003. Years ago, I wrote to the then pastor Todd, at Trinity Lutheran on Kinney, expressing my concerns about the bright parking lot lights that shone directly into my backyard. They illuminated and still do to the point that I can read at night by their light in my yard. Same for the second floor windows of my house. I don't use any curtains. The light shines brightly enough that I can read by it. These lights are on at night 365 days a year. No response came from the church when I wrote it years ago, and I am aware that our zoning code requires commercially zoned uses adjacent to residential to take measures to keep their outdoor lighting from being a nuisance to adjacent residential properties. Yet there is no similar specification for churches. In May of 2020, I raised a concern with Pastor Jody Keith of Trinity Lutheran, as the lights are even brighter than after recent repair work. The pastor expressed a willingness to explore options for modifying the lighting so it wouldn't shine directly into my property, yet here it is October, 6 months later, and nothing has changed. The definition of nuisance in legal language entails that which deprives a property owner of their enjoyment of their property. This lighting is definitely a nuisance, as the extreme bright lights glare in my eyes as soon as I walk out into my backyard. When leaves fall from my trees, my entire backyard will be illuminated. I typically like to spend time outdoors, and the bright lighting can be a factor for too long. It has been a factor for too long. It is not in keeping with residential zoning to have such extreme lighting. I have looked at all the other churches in Mount Healthy, and none have similar extreme bright lights for their parking lots. Usually zoning code requires that they be pointed downward to minimize impact on surrounding properties, and mysteriously, our zoning code only requires it for commercial use and not for churches. I ask for your help to guidance to finding some solution that is appropriate to the residential area. I am able to enjoy the full use of my property even at night. Thank you, Karen Arnett. Okay, Jenny? Yes.
I've been involved in this a little bit, in that it was, she brought it to the attention of the new minister there. You know, when Pastor Todd was there, the lighting was not like it is now. And the lighting had been gone for a long time because it was a hazard as far as people going in and out of that church. But when the lighting did go up, it's bright. And so I walked the alley at night, and I will say, and I mean, it's very light. Now, she's not right next to the church. She's probably 3 or 4 houses down. And the property, she's on the alley, and the property on the other side of the alley, he has a light on his garage. It stays on all night. So part of her backyard is illuminated by that garage also. But the church does have very bright lighting. So it was brought to their attention. The man who installed it said that he could not tilt it. The church was still asking what can be done if something can be put over it. I know they're not ignoring her. She has sent numerous emails with numerous people that are not neighbors, but people that she knows, expressing concerns for moths, insects at night, things like that, which I appreciate. The president of the church council is a lawyer. I just took a picture of this letter. I sent it to the pastor. She's like, oh my gosh, he's supposed to be working on this. So I would, though, suggest that we could still have a follow-up from the city, because they are taking this seriously. But I understand her concern, because it is pretty bright. And I do think that there should be a way, even though they installed these lights, they're LEDs, and I guess they can't be tilted, something should probably be able to be put down. Now, nobody else has complained, but, you know, they are bright. So, you know, if Bill or somebody wants to make a phone call again to the city, to Trinity, that's fine, but I did take a picture of this. I sent it to her. She went, oh my gosh, he was supposed to be working on this. And so she is now forwarding this to the president of the church council, who happens to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
So,
Jenny, you can take a piece of aluminum, paint it bronze, or get a piece of bronze aluminum, put a shield on the one
well,
side.
that's what we keep saying.
It's very simple.
And that's what we told the properties guy. There should be something that could be put there. Now, I will say, for him to get up there, it's too dangerous for him to do that. They need to hire somebody to get up and do that. So,
Need somebody with a lift truck. Somebody with a lift
Yeah,
truck, they can go up there and
absolutely.
have them installed in 3 minutes.
So, you know, I'm glad she wrote the letter in a way, because they're like, oh my gosh, we were supposed to be working on this. So hopefully they'll get this resolved.
Well, I think we'll leave it up to you, Jenny, to keep touching
Oh,
it.
no, you don't want to leave it up to me. Because let me tell you,
Not
I
to
do
fix it.
not, this person, you know, I don't do a good enough job for her, really.
Well,
I'm sorry, but I
let me
don't.
start. I know that when I saw this letter, I had heard of it as
Oh.
well. And I had reached out, and maybe it's just a timing issue, because wasn't there, the lights were out for a while, and then there was temporary lights that
The
were up?
lights, yes, and she
those were
complained
even, I
about
think,
that.
even more of a nuisance. That's what when I talked to Bill, that's what he recollected was this is what it was. And then he went by at a later date, the temporary lights were gone.
Right.
And assumed, you know, you know, this, in the summertime, you know, you don't see this kind of stuff as much because they don't come on much later. No issues.
Well, the temporary light, they redirected it, because
Yeah.
there was a complaint about the temporary light, which was a valid
Right.
complaint, and they redirected that. And then, I don't know if there was any more concern or not. And then.
That's where we
yeah.
were kind of at with it. And when we installed some lights over in the park, we had a neighbor, after many years, one of the neighbors complained, and we did the same thing, Ross. We were able to get a shield. So
Yeah, I don't
I'll share this with Bill, and I know that you're working on it, and
Yeah.
we'll follow up.
But it wouldn't hurt maybe if the city did make a call and say, hey, look, you know, when can you get this rectified?
Okay.
Because they should.
Okay, thank you. Any other correspondence? I have none. Does anybody else have any? Okay, guests and special events. Don't believe we have any, do we, Bill? Public input. Anybody here that'd like to address council tonight? Bill, we have anybody online?
Let's see. I'll ask. You can go ahead, and then if we
Yeah.
can jump back.
Committee reports, business partnership, Ms. Peterson?
Okay, the Mount Healthy Business Association did have a Zoom meeting this month. Few people attended, again, not enough for a quorum. They did discuss some items. The Christmas in Mount Healthy event was brought up. I guess the Renaissance Project is not going to be handling it this year like they've done in the past. I understand, I guess, Paul Young's funeral there is still planning on doing something, but at this point, they're not sure how they're gonna do it. So the business association members, whatever, gonna kind of check around to talk to the different businesses to see what their feeling is or what they want to see what they can do. So they're looking into that, so Christmas in Mount Healthy, not sure how that's gonna go. Rob Kunkel from Alliance was there, and he kind of expressed something new. He says he's putting out feelers to see if people can come up with some suggestions of additional ways for the Alliance to be of service to the community. I know they do food and clothing and things like that, but they're trying to think if there's other ways that they can help people or at least direct them. And I know they mentioned your brochure that you prepared for everybody with the different listings, so to kind of help that too. But if there's other things that people might have concerns about that they can work on. So, that was pretty much all that was brought up in the meeting. The Alliance for September, they served 331 families, and I think that's about it.
Thank you. Any questions for Judy? Denise?
Not a question, I just want to piggyback. I was, I'm on the committee for the Christmas in Mount Healthy.
Oh, okay.
And we talked 2 weeks ago, I guess, by email and so forth. And we did decide not to do it because of the pandemic.
Right.
And Sarah Young did say they're going to have their nativity, but not the open house and the street stuff that they had last year.
Okay.
So we were thinking about if we have lights, light up the business district maybe more, but I don't even know if the city has Christmas lights or anything like that.
And we do have the flags and
You know,
so forth.
they talked
Yeah.
about maybe doing something like that, but
I think,
hopefully next year it'll be better.
yeah. One other thing they kind of mentioned, they've done like the luminaries. They were thinking maybe if people could maybe at least do that much, dress it up a little bit. So,
Yeah,
so they're still looking into things.
but that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Beautification, Ms. Moody?
No report.
Finance, Mr. Parsons?
I reviewed the financial statements in the packet. Everything's looking very good. Expenses are being held down because we're not spending anything we don't have to. As far as revenues, it looks like the property taxes are coming in right at budget. Income tax and the Jed Z income is still slightly under, but it looks like it'll be pretty close, maybe $100,000 short.
Pretty close, $100,000.
Well,
Really?
it could have been a lot worse.
I agree. And the CARES Act money is definitely helping offset.
Yeah, we got some other money coming in that we didn't expect, yeah. So everything looks good. Mr. Coker has sent out the budget requests to the department heads, and we'll probably be looking at a budget in November, late November.
For sure by the second meeting, probably Finance Committee prior to the second meeting.
I should probably go ahead and call that now. The second meeting in November, about 6:15. Whatever that second meeting.
On the third
The
Tuesday?
third, that'd be the 17th of November.
The first.
I think it's the 17th at 6:15. And if we get the information early, we can ask questions ahead of time.
Absolutely, yeah.
17th? Yes. Okay.
That's all, thank you.
Okay, Parks, Ms. Lingo?
No report.
Safety and Streets, Mr. Redding?
Just, there are a couple of ordinances in the packet, one for the firefighters paramedic positions, and then one for the street projects. So that's all I had outside of a question for Bill. Have you heard any additional feedback on the parking issues on Hamilton Avenue? I had not had a chance to follow up with some of the folks, but I'll make sure I get to that this weekend, so,
I have not heard.
okay.
lately.
Okay, I'll just
Every
check.
time I go to the bakery, they say it's about the same, but
Okay. Yeah, I haven't been up there so for quite a few weeks, so.
I go too often.
So I will follow up with the bakery folks, and I haven't heard anything from I guess that would be the east side of Hamilton Avenue, so,
There's a couple concerns, but
Still?
it's the, yeah,
okay,
but.
all right.
Yeah.
I'll follow up.
Okay,
That's-
anybody have any questions for Mr. Redding? I'm glad to see they finally put the double yellow line on the middle of the street down there by Madison and St. Clair. I didn't know what was going on, whether they weren't required to do that or,
Just to try to get him back in town for that little
Yeah.
short was a challenge, but Greg tracked him down and got
Good.
it done.
okay, schools, Mr. George.
I have a couple updates in regards to the Mount Healthy School District. Kindergarten through 6th grade will be returning to in-person learning next Monday, October 26th, if their parents choose to do so. And grades 7 through 12 will also be returning to in-person learning next Monday, the 26th. The school district has been awarded and is in competition for a multitude of grants that will help improve the lives of the students. And lastly, there's been some talk about the naming of the new Early Learning Center. And at this point, it seems that it's going to be named after Carol Ellis and Don Wolf because of 70-plus years that they've given to the district. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. George? Mr. Redding, you had something.
Yes, I forgot two things in my report. Obviously, on your desk is a list of calls to the PD and the work that they've done on Bernard. So it looks like they issued about 20 citations for speeding on Bernard, and they've got them all listed out. Bill, thank you for that information.
Yeah, there's more to that I was going to cover in my report. There's a petition and just a
Yeah,
general conversation.
yep, there's an attached petition on the back. And then also there was a letter in your packet about, oh geez, how old am I getting? Slips my mind now, and I read it.
From the law director on the police stuff.
Yes,
I'm going to cover that in my.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, now I'll leave that to Bill.
Okay. Library, Ms. Dosa.
Nothing new to report.
Okay. Urban Tree, Ms. Lingo.
Yes, we had a Zoom meeting, Karen Arnett and Wendy Van Buren, our arborist, trying to come up with some standards to protect the soil in the road construction so they could plant trees. Apparently, a lot of the contractors will put, in the easement areas will sometimes put sand and chunks of asphalt in there before they lay some dirt down. And I was told by the arborist, by Wendy, that if you ask them not to do that, they won't. But I don't know if it costs more money.
We spec topsoil. We don't, I mean, when there's a spec,
Not to put the garbage in there.
right,
You know, because then it makes it hard for the trees to grow.
sure.
You know, in there. And I've given Bill some more information regarding that he could share. And then Karen also said 3 people asked for trees in their tree lawn, so she's gonna follow up with that. She's hoping to go back to selecting a street in the fall to plant trees on the thing right there. So if you guys want any information, really a learning experience. 'Cause now I'm on their email for the urban forestry, and it's just amazing what.
Wendy's done a lot for the city.
Yeah,
I like Wendy a lot.
She's a really nice,
Yeah.
very nice lady, but that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, council? We Thrive, Ms. Moody.
No report.
Okay. Move on to the mayor's report, Mr. Wolf.
Yeah, the first thing I want to do, and I just saw this on social media before I came up here, and I do want to give them some kudos, is Native Moon Apothecary is celebrating their 2-year anniversary today. So that's pretty spectacular. And I am pleasantly surprised at some of the growth. Native Moon is going to be growing their space soon. They actually are going to have Ken, the owner of the property, is doing construction right now to build out that space. So right now, when things aren't going too well for a lot of businesses, we're actually seeing some growth in town. We also saw the same thing with Fibonacci adding on their beer garden and ad delivery services, and they've been booming lately. And then with the addition of Square Mile. So it's nice to see some businesses doing well and expanding during these times. I don't know how they're doing it. I give them a lot of credit and just ask everyone to support them so they can be around longer than that. 2 years is great, but let's keep them going. The other thing I just want to jump on, because I've gotten some questions, a lot of people don't understand the difference between the city council and mayor and school board and how we're elected separately and, don't have control over the other. So I've had a lot of people ask questions of me, and then as a teacher, I can answer a lot of them. One thing that is interesting, and I do just want people to know the stats, for the high school that is opening on Monday, only 28% of the students have chosen to return in person. So this is very different than what we're seeing from the parent surveys and from the community requests in other districts. I know in some of the more suburban districts, a lot of parents are pushing to open. In our district, that really hasn't happened much. And I don't want to speak to all the reasons of that, but I do know that, we have a population of students where 95% are economically disadvantaged. There are some real concerns with health outcomes and primary care services. And I know there's some real fear in the community, and we are right now still the hot spot, unfortunately. So I'm glad to see parents are taking it seriously. I hate the virtual instruction as a teacher myself, but I do just want people to be aware there's only going to be 210 high schoolers in the building starting Monday. Wow. So the vast majority, 72%, 540 students are still going to be virtual. So even though you're hearing that it's opening up, and that's all by parent choice. The parents have chosen to keep the kids virtual for the most part. So that is the reality. And if you saw DeWine's speech today, he's begging people to take this seriously because he doesn't want to shut down schools again. And unfortunately, things are starting to trend to the point where we could see that again in the future. So it would be a shame if we open up for those 200 kids, then have to shut down again in a few weeks. So I just ask the community to take things seriously and be safe and follow the CDC guidelines so that we can stay open for those 200 kids that choose to be there. And Joe, do you have a question?
Yeah, so you said high school, 200 kids. Is that junior high and high school combined?
That's just high school. That's,
Okay.
yeah.
Because they're both in the building, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. That's 9 through 12, and I don't know the other numbers.
Okay.
I'll
So
try to
seventh
get
and
those.
eighth. Okay.
The elementaries have been in.
Yeah, they've actually been in
Yes.
for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But their numbers are also lower, and it's very different there. I mean, in the elementaries, they actually have plexiglass around the desks, and it's a very different world. It's crazy. So just want to put that out there. Even though you're going to hear that we're in person, it's only 210 kids. That's really not many at all.
It's not.
It's tiny. So just wanted people to get that full picture of it. And the ones that are in person are going to be 5 days a week. So there's also confusion about that. We are not doing a hybrid system like some school districts are, like Fairfield and Cincinnati Public. Since there are only 200, they can accommodate 5 days a week. They're capping the classes at 16 kids per class. They actually have QR codes where the kids are going to have to scan QR codes with their phones in order to get a hall pass or go to the restroom. That way they can track where every kid is and do contact tracing electronically. So it's going to be taken pretty seriously for 200 kids. It's quite an undertaking. The other thing I wanted to bring up, so the Haunted Hall, as I talked about, is canceled this year. One of the issues with that is they give a discount if you bring canned goods, and they've always done that. I think it's like $2 off admission if you bring canned goods up. And in past years, they've collected as much as 2,000 pounds of food for the food pantry. It's been a very successful thing that they've done for over 30 years now. And with the Haunted Hall being closed this year, they're missing out on that opportunity. Now, they are going to have a trunk or treat, Meet the Monsters trunk or treat this Sunday from 6 to 8. I'm sorry, this Saturday from 6 to 8. Let me make sure I have that correct. Lights Up is usually on Sundays. This year, it's on a Saturday from 6 to 8, the 24th. And the only admission they're asking is 2 canned goods. So you can bring little ones up for trunk or treat. They're not charging money, but they do ask people to bring canned goods. Now, that's not enough. They're not going to get 2,000 pounds of food from that. So Fibonacci is now doing a food drive as well. So if you have food you would like to donate to the Mount Healthy Alliance Food Pantry, you can drop it off at Fibonacci during their business hours. They also have a drive-through, so you can actually just go through their drive-through and drop off canned goods. It'll be hard to get the 2,000 they usually get in October, but at least, you know, people are stepping up and trying to help out. So I do encourage people to donate canned goods either by going to the trunk or treat or donating through Fibonacci or directly to the food pantry. Food pantry has limited hours, so it's probably easier just to go through Fibonacci's drive-through. Halloween, we've talked about already. I still keep getting questions. We are on October 31st, 6 to 8. We're asking people to be safe and follow the guidelines have come out from public health, but it is on in Mount Healthy. Day after that is Fibonacci's last farmers market, which has been really a pleasant event. So do encourage people to go there. And then the last thing, Election Day, is our next council meeting. Our polling location has been moved from, or one of the polling locations has been moved from the park to Assumption to accommodate some of the COVID restrictions and guidelines. So Trinity Lutheran and Assumption are the 2 polling locations this year. So if you're usually at Trinity, you'll be at Trinity. If you voted at the park in recent days or the Legion before that, your new polling location is Assumption. So just wanted people to know that since that's coming up before our next meeting. And that's the end of my report.
Does 3 and 4 vote at Assumption? Wards 3 and 4? One and
No.
2?
1 and 3.
Goes to Trinity.
Ross, if you voted at the city.
I'm not worried about me. I've had some other questions.
Let me look.
I've already voted 3 times. So.
On
Early
tape.
absentee,
Five's the
what was
limit,
the
right?
other?
Yeah, 5's the limit. I know 2 votes at the Lutheran Church,
3
4
votes,
4 does too, because I'm in 4. And I
3
can vote.
votes at Assumption.
so 2 and 4 and 1 and 3?
Yeah, 1 and 3 are at Assumption.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any questions for the mayor on any of that stuff?
Just one comment. I think the police should start enforcing the no turn on red when schools are back in next week. I know the academy's been in for a while and people are still turning, but school's in, should be.
And I mean, it's not in everywhere though, right? I mean,
No, it's going to be in every
well, it
day.
is, but I mean, okay, I'll talk to the,
We can use the money.
I knew
Okay,
that was coming.
city manager's report, Mr. Coker.
so, this is a good segue. So I think you saw the letter from our law director about the log jam that we have of unpaid fines. And, you know, the a lot of that's been, they're old, a lot of these are old, but some of this is still driven, we're still having, it's a very tedious process with the whole courts and everything with what's going on with the virus and so forth. So there's other communities that are doing this, and it's an amnesty day where we would offer or send out letters to everybody that owes, offering them amnesty to pay, because we spend a lot of resources trying to collect. And we just kind of a one-time thing, kind of a pandemic kind of thing. A lot of other communities are also doing this. And there were some pretty big concerns on the chief's part, and we kind of talked it out. One of his main drivers is, you work and you write these citations, and then you're gonna give somebody, get them off. Well, they're not getting off, they're getting, the amnesty is half. So if a person owes us a $500 fine, if they pay $250, it would clear that off our books. And it's not for, it's not for violent criminals. We're not giving anybody, it's stop signs, it's traffic citations. It might be a simple assault if they owe the money, but it's not like we're letting off harsh felons to pay their price. So I think what we decided to do is to go forward with it on, starting November 1st. The letters will start to go out and just carry it through the end of the year, December 31st. I think in the original letter, it was to the 31st of July, or of January. So anyway, that's what we're thinking. Joe?
So are most of these folks that show up at court, or just, they just don't pay the fine?
Both.
Both?
Yeah, right. It's any outstanding fine that we have.
Okay.
That we've not been able to collect on. And we're just trying to do the amnesty just to get that logjam off of our
Yeah.
books.
I mean, I guess I have more compassion for the folks that show up at court and say, yeah, I'm here, I plead no contest, or whatever they plead, and they try their case and then maybe get on a payment system or something and can't, versus people that just, do whatever they do, don't show up, don't do anything, so.
Uh-huh.
And then,
Well, if a person's on a payment system, I believe that we were gonna try to work with them as well.
yeah, okay. And then, do we take credit cards?
Yes?
Awesome, okay.
You wanna give us yours and we can?
You'll have to pay half.
Only when I speed or break some other law.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes, we do. And actually, Scott, you're working on,
Yeah, we're trying to set up so you can pay online, because we do not have that option.
can you step up? I'm sorry, but because people at home might not be able to hear.
So the docketing system that we have, you have to show up in person to pay it, or I guess mail a check, but right now, we're trying to set it up where you can pay online. Just go to a website, you'll type it in, there'll be
Okay.
a small fee you have to pay, but you could do all this process online. That's
People
my goal
can't-
tomorrow to,
They can call in and pay on a credit
that's right,
card.
yeah. I guess Vicky takes calls over the
That's
phone all the
very
time. and
burdensome. I
that's-
mean, Vicky trying to do that and take care of 5 other things is difficult.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the instigators. I mean, she says it just takes forever to kind of take some of those calls. So even without
Get through the
COVID, it was
process.
already kind of a hassle to do it the way we're doing it now, but yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So they have options?
Mhm.
Okay.
Options sometimes.
Does this include the lawn care the outstanding lawn care
No.
fine? No.
No, once we assess something to the property tax, this is all mayor's court stuff too. What we assess to the property tax for lawn or garbage or cleanup, that's through property maintenance, and that gets assessed to property tax. So we'll give this a shot. And I mean, look, we've never done this before, and but we'd like to see this because it would hopefully clean up, and kind of, a lot of other communities are out there doing the same because courts just haven't been in session. Yeah, Joe?
Is this something council needs to vote on, or is just,
No,
Just an
this is
FYI.
this is FYI.
okay, so
Yeah.
it's an administrative
Yeah,
thing? Okay.
right. I mean,
'Cause if
unless
this
council
doesn't-
has a big concern about this, and,
No, I think it's a good idea.
yeah.
Well, if this doesn't work, then I say go the other way, double them.
I like the ones where you send them out a notice that they've won a prize, and then you show up and you can arrest them, right? I like those too, but,
If-
there's all kinds of ways, right?
Hopefully this will
Can you
encourage
please,
people to-
I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, hopefully this will encourage people to come out and pay or call and settle these debts.
Please track this and let us know in January how it went.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
As Bob mentioned, the budget process is in full swing. All the department heads have their sheets, and everything looks like everything is kind of lining up. I think that we'll have it for everybody to pass before year end. We won't have to go into January. And along those same lines, at the same time, we have three of the police contracts, the part-time patrol officers and sergeants, that is going to expire at the end of the year. And we're starting that process. I'm meeting in the morning with the FOP and some of the police members to start that negotiation process as well. And hopefully we'll have this completed by the end of the year, we'll see. So just another thing that's going on, and you'll see it. Obviously, council approves. I sign off on it, but council approves, if you've forgotten, the actual contracts once we've agreed on all items. And then the last item, and Joe had mentioned this, is there's a resident down on Joseph, his name's Jonah, who put, or Joseph, Bernard, who put the petition together, and this has been an ongoing topic on Bernard, and we don't disagree that, I mean, you can see there's been activity. A lot of this discussion was going on in August. A lot of the calls came in, a lot of the citations were issued down there, and then focus changes. I'm not saying it doesn't. We can't, it's the next street, it's Clover, we've got these same concerns on a lot of streets. We've had these conversations before where, a lot of people look towards speed humps, different things like that. The city has always stayed away. There's mixed feelings on those of how they work. I know some communities have it. And I talked to this gentleman, he had called in and asked, what would a petition do? We've explained to him kind of our position on the speed humps. I've talked to the chief, we have moved signs down there, speed limit signs, things. Doesn't sound like it's making a full impact. I told him the next thing I could do is discuss with council, and we typically do this. We just don't throw up stop signs. We typically commission a study to look at it, to see if it should go, where it should go, if it's warranted. We've done it before on other streets. So I said, look, I know that we've reacted somewhat to what you've done. We've moved the speed sign there that shows the speed. We moved that around town. We've run patrols there. We've responded. There's this claim. So I don't know what council's thought on. We typically you guys have authorized something like that to look to see if that's maybe warranted as a potential stop sign somewhere along there. So I wanted to bring you the information. I said I told him actually, Denise, you sent me the petition, and I gathered everything else and said, sure, we'll talk about it at council and see what your thoughts are.
Where would you put a stop sign on?
That's the only thing. There
There
isn't.
I don't think it would matter. They wouldn't stop anyway.
We'll go right through it anyway.
That I get a lot of complaints on Clover Nook. There is one. There is what I think is referred to as a paper alley. I mean, there are some streets, I think, and that's why I wouldn't, just throw something up. We'd commission something
Yeah, where
and have a
that dip
traffic
is.
engineer. At the dip at the
Right.
bottom, there was an
There was
old,
an alley.
what they call it, an alley or paper alley. I don't know if there was ever a street there at one
I
time.
used to live in that house. It didn't go no.
There wasn't
Just the paper, grass.
Grass, it was never a paved area, right? But they had horses back. No, I'm teasing. Yeah, I mean, that's a potential. I don't know. I don't know what council's thoughts are on it. I told him I wouldn't ignore it. I'd bring it to council and see what you guys thought.
Well, I believe you would have to have a study done because we don't have the knowledge about how to control traffic.
Right,
I would think so too.
Your recommendation on that is sound.
yeah. And I mean, again, that's just something, those things aren't, usually $1,500 to $2,000. I mean, it's not, they take traffic count, and they just don't drive by and write something down on a piece of paper and come back. I mean, they warrant it as well, because if it's not warranted, they're gonna give us that recommendation, or if it is, and if there is ever an issue, they wanna show they've done their due diligence. So it's a professional process for sure.
Well, the work that the police department has done is going to have an effect. Might not be immediate, but it's going to stop people.
Yep,
It'll slow them down.
a couple of more times and it'll,
The problem with that is 3 months from now, they'll be right back where they
Right.
were.
It is,
And it's not a problem that's unique to Bernard. It's every street in our town,
it is.
unfortunately. So if you think our next move is a stop sign, then we'll have to look into that.
Well, I think, yeah, I don't know, it would be council kind of recommending to me to get a traffic study, I think would be the next step.
How do you feel about that, council? Is it a waste of $2,000, or do we something we need to do?
Can it be, would the traffic study be concise to, do we need a stop sign, or would it be within a parameter or scope of making other recommendations?
Yes, it could be either.
Yeah.
You know, if it's concise to a stop sign, it's gonna be, if you open up the scope and they have to do more, it's gonna, you know, that kind of a study would cost
I
more.
mean, can they make possible recommendations besides, no, don't put a stop sign here, or yes, put a stop sign here, maybe it's,
They could, I just think that would be a more comprehensive we proceed.
Yep.
It's just something that can be done. It's not like can't do these after November 1st or anything. I mean, if you want to, you know, you just got this letter in your packet, and, you know, I could find out, I could get some options from our traffic engineer and pricing, and you guys could look at it that way too.
I mean,
That's a good idea.
basically,
Let's do that.
we're saying the study would be to see whether we should put a stop sign or not, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what this alludes to, and, you know, the speed hump thing, I think we've kind of stated our position on that and multiple times. The other part of this was a stop sign, is what they put on this petition. And I mean, that to me is kind of if you're not gonna, you know, what could slow some traffic? A potential stop sign could there. I don't know what else they could recommend. They may tell us, no, I mean, you know, it's pretty much, you know, these are your options, but, you know, I was just.
Then we're gonna have another complaint that somebody's not stopping at the stop sign,
right.
because we've got that all over town too. Everybody wants them at their stop sign because people are just blowing through stop signs. We know that, don't we, Ms. Dosa? But, yeah, so, I don't know.
Would you like me to talk to the engineer and try to get some options?
I'd say get the options,
Get some options.
Okay,
but I think if they do the study, they're gonna say you don't need a stop sign there.
yeah.
But get the options.
okay, great. That's what I'll do.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. That's all I have tonight.
Okay. Mr. Coker, thank you. Move on to our ordinances and resolutions. We have a resolution that we had the first reading on last meeting. Resolution number 20-1150.
Are we skipping Scott?
A resolution authorizing the city manager of the city of Mount Healthy
Are we skipping Scott?
to prepare and submit an application to I'm sorry. Mr. Bauer. We're going to back up. Go to Mr. Bauer's finance report. I do that to you about every other meeting, don't I?
Really, the September financial statements are in your packets. Bob already kind of touched on them. I'll just add, I guess, if this first page, if you flip it over, we did add a new fund. It's number 738, the local coronavirus fund. When you guys passed I can't remember if it was a resolution or an ordinance back in May, this was just one of the requirements. Any money we get from the CARES Act has to go into this special fund, so that'll be something new. That's really it. And if you have questions, I'll have an ordinance later for some more CARES Act money that we got, so it's exciting.
Questions for Mr. Bauer? Thank you, Scott.
You better have stood up and said more. Your packets are in your report if you have any questions.
Yeah.
You put him on the spot.
Any questions? Okay, now we are going on to resolutions and ordinances. Resolution that we had the first reading on last week, 2 weeks ago, Resolution 20-1150. A resolution authorizing the city manager of the city of Mount Healthy to prepare and submit an application to participate in the Ohio Public Works Commission State Capital Improvement and/or local transportation improvement programs, and to execute contract as required. Like I said, we had the first reading on the 6th of this month. Questions or comments, council?
If I may, we've had a lot of discussion on this one. I'd like to, maybe under old business, after we can pass this as it reads right now, but I think that the open question on this is how we're gonna, how we want our engineer to present our priorities and our matches for the three projects that we've talked about. It's not part of this, and it doesn't need to be part of this ordinance, but I just wanna, you know, I think we can pass this ordinance as it sits, and then but I'd like to have a motion prioritizing both the priority order of the three projects and the match if it's required. The first one really not required to have a defined
Yep.
match, so.
I'm with you. Yep. I agree. Probably
Okay.
under old business, okay?
Okay. Questions or comments other than, for this resolution, council? Mr. Redding?
I make a motion to adopt.
Mr. Redding has made a motion to adopt.
I'll second that.
Mr. Parsons has seconded. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Lingo,
Aye.
Mrs. Moody,
Aye.
Mr. Parsons,
Aye.
Ms. Peterson,
Aye.
Mr. Redding,
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa,
Aye.
Mr. George.
Aye.
Okay, by a vote of 7-0, Resolution 20-1150 is passed. We do have another, well, we'll go to second reading resolution. We'll go to the first reading of the ordinance as they're listed on the agenda. Ordinance number 20-1922. An ordinance amending the 2020 appropriations and declaring an emergency.
So more CARES Act funds. 2 weeks ago, when I was up here, we passed a similar resolution for $100,000. That was the first payment we received. Well, I think it was maybe 2 days later, we got a payment for $240,000 related to the CARES Act. So this is all the same money. It's going to go in the same fund, same process. We just need to formally incorporate it into our budget, saying that we're going to use it for COVID-related expenses. We did it in one reading last time. I guess I would suggest the same thing, just to kind of knock it out and get it done. But this is the same thing. I believe this is the last payment. I don't know. I've tried to do as much reading as I can, and it doesn't seem like anybody. They said this was the final payment, but I guess people that haven't used their funds will have to put it back in a pot. So we may get a smaller payment later. I mean, you got to think people are going to find ways to spend the money, but maybe some people can't. So we could get a third payment maybe in December, but yeah.
Well, Scott, if they want to send us money, we'll do this.
I
again.
know, we'll find ways to spend it. So.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Bauer? Thank you, Scott. Council, what is your wish? Have a motion to adopt, or a second to waive the two reading rule?
I'll make a motion to waive the two reading rule.
Ms. Lingo has made a motion to waive the two reading rule.
I'll second.
Mr. George has seconded.
Mrs. Lingo,
Aye.
Mrs. Moody,
Aye.
Mr. Parsons,
Aye.
Ms. Peterson,
Aye.
Mr. Redding,
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa,
Aye.
Mr. George.
Aye.
Okay, by a vote of 7-0, the resolution is waived for two reading rule.
Somebody would have said that.
Any other questions, council? Then I would ask a motion to adopt.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 20-1922.
Mr. Parsons has made a motion to adopt.
Second.
Mr. Redding, seconded.
Mrs. Lingo,
Aye.
Mrs. Moody,
Aye.
Mr. Parsons,
Aye.
Ms. Peterson,
Aye.
Mr. Redding,
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa,
Aye.
Mr. George.
Aye.
Okay, by a vote of 7-0, ordinance 20-1922 is approved.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next ordinance, an ordinance to set compensation for certain full-time employees of the city of Mount Healthy. We need an ordinance number.
This one is 20-1923.
1923.
We can take a first reading. We just wanted to get this in front of you. It's a little different than, all the other employees because, we will be testing, for these full-time positions on, November 4th, 2 weeks from now. We want to be able to kind of have a conversation with these folks and lay it out as we offer them employment, what's going to be in their package, a range of salary here. When we did all of this stuff I think that we talked about an average of around 60 to 62,000 is what we were gonna need to get some folks in, paramedic, people. And this is a whole new area that the city's not dealt in, and that's full-time firefighter positions. I tell you, it's a whole, sometimes it's Greek looking at it. I mean, 2,080 is a familiar number with what, most full-time employees use as a number of hours worked. A full-time firefighter is typically gonna be 2496. So you set that salary, and then then you divide, instead of by 2,080, you divide 2496, because they're here for 24 hours on, 24 hours off. A lot of conversations lately with the how we're going to accumulate PTO, paid time off. How, you're not going to get days off. It's going to be more of an hour discussion or a shift discussion, kinds of things that will all work out. But we'll be in line with, it'll be some pretty similar, I think, to what it is for all other employees. It's just going to be presented in a different way. You're not going to get, after a year, 80 hours of vacation. You're going to get 3 shifts off, probably, somewhere in that range, accumulating the sick time like everyone else does, at a different rate than what what a person does, just because of the hours that are worked. So we're working through that, and we'll have it ready, and everything's set for the test on the 4th.
You said that was up at Assumption.
It is.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Redding?
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about that. So these salaries are based on a 2,496-hour year
Yes.
for them?
Yeah, so the hourly rate, that's what will be, so yes, you'll just take, if the person falls in the 62,000 slot, you divide that by 2496, and you come up with an hourly rate, which
An
is
average
around
hourly rate.
$24
Okay.
an hour. So, and a lot of uniqueness. I actually had some interesting conversations with our fire chief, Steve, who was a part-time employee at Coleraine when they went from a part-time to a full-time staff. Okay, and he was a captain of in charge of one of the stations, and a lot of the new folks that were coming in were, full-time, paying a higher rate, but he was still in charge. And we're gonna go through some of that because all the people that we're hiring are gonna be, first, paramedic. They're not gonna have a lot of supervisory, they're gonna build on that. And then as we transition, as some of our part-timers, retire or whatever, or move on, we'll transition some of these full-timers as they gain experience into those other positions. But right now, all of our officers on the fire department will be part-time starting, at the beginning of the year. So it's kind of interesting as you kind of work your way through all this.
Yep. And there's, for a typical firefighter union package, that's part of the negotiation, the 2496?
There's no negotiation yet.
Okay.
There's no negotiation. I think that those salaries were determined on doing salary surveys when we were talking to the folks out
Okay.
there of what we're gonna need to hire to attract people to come here.
Yeah.
We can't just say, hey, we're full-time, but only pay somebody $45,000 when they're making, 50, 60, 65 at other places. We'd never attract them, right?
Yeah.
And the
I'm just kinda-
full-timers don't have a union. The IAFF doesn't organize departments until they're full-time for at least a year.
Okay.
So it's gonna be an odd situation where we are negotiating with our part-timers, but we're not collectively bargaining with our full-timers at this point.
Right. The part-time contract we extended
Yeah.
for a year, and so we'll open that up after the first of the year.
Okay.
And if they do come in, IAFF, or if the full-timers decide to organize with IAFF, what's unique about this as well is IAFF does not organize part-timers, and AFSCME does not organize full-timers. So there would be 2 different unions at that point in the fire department, based off their class.
Okay. Yep.
But that's down the road.
Got enough going on right now.
Are these salaries competitive throughout the area?
Yeah, we feel so, yes. I mean, that's where we based our, from the beginning, our numbers off of, so.
Any other questions, council? You all agree on a first reading?
Sure.
Okay. First reading on ordinance 20-1123, 1923. Haven't done much right tonight yet, have we? Okay, our last order of business is the resolution. The resolution authorizing city manager to enter into and execute contracts with the Director of Transportation which are necessary to develop plans for and to complete the above-described project, and to execute contracts with ODOT per qualified consultants for the preliminary engineering phase of the project. Resolution number
20-1152.
1152. Mr. Coker.
This is something we should have done a long time ago, to be honest. You've heard us talking about the SAFER grants for years. We actually did something similar to this with the traffic lights not too long ago, which are, by the way, there was a meeting today and some preliminary work starting on that. So that was something we discussed at our last meeting. But this is something, if we could pass tonight, it's been a crazy, we have one of the consultants that's helping, because we're on at the intersection of Adams and Hamilton. They're improving handicap ramps there, which is a good thing, right? Because that's one less intersection we'll have to deal with the whole urban paving project we got coming up, right? But they had to go back onto each one of those corners and through eminent domain get some of that property. For in front of Walgreens, it was 39 square feet, and this guy does a lot of this work for the state, and he's doing it for us. It's paid through the grant. Told me only one other project. I always love to hear that thing, right? This has never happened to me before. This is a first time. Those are never really good experiences, right? What it took for him to get 39 square feet in front of Walgreens to make sure that for a handicap ramp has been quite. You've talked to Mr. Sicardi on a lot of occasions, right? So it's been interesting, but those are some of the things that will be done, along with the sidewalks that are on Compton, which will be a great project when it's finished. It's just sometimes these federal projects are challenging. Let's leave it at that. But if we could, the state would appreciate it if we could waive the 2 reading rule and pass this tonight.
So what's the timing on this? They have to go out for bids?
Oh yeah, they're still in the engineering stage.
So it'll probably be spring?
Yes, right.
Does it have to be done by the end of June or something?
Well, they are starting to get concerned with some of the funding cycles on it, but it's not. Some of the with this, it's not like a whole street project. Once I think the project can keep going, a lot of it's just concrete work, and they'll be able to go through it pretty quickly once all of the T's are crossed and I's are dotted. That took so much more time than the actual work is going to take. So.
Any other questions, council? Administration has asked for a suspension of the 2 reading rule and pass it tonight. Any questions on that? Mr. Redding?
Ross, I make a motion to suspend the 2 reading rule on resolution 20-1152.
Okay, Mr. Redding has made a motion to suspend.
Second.
Mr. George has seconded.
Mrs. Lingo?
Aye.
Mrs. Moody? Mr. Parsons?
Aye.
Ms. Peterson?
Aye.
Mr. Redding?
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa?
Aye.
Mr. George?
Aye.
Okay, by a vote of 7-0. 2 reading rule has been suspended. Any other questions or comments? What is your wish, council?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 20-1152.
Mr. Parsons has made a motion to adopt.
Second?
Mr. Redding has seconded.
Mrs. Lingo?
Aye.
Mrs. Moody?
Aye.
Mr. Parsons?
Aye.
Ms. Peterson?
Aye.
Mr. Redding?
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa?
Aye.
Mr. George?
Aye.
Okay, by a vote of 7-0, resolution number 20-1152 is adopted. That is the end of our legislation. We go to old business. First thing in old business will be discussion about,
The
Joe?
the projects, the prioritization of the projects and the percentage that we want to,
The street projects.
yep.
Okay, council, opinions?
So, well, let's start it from here. So right now, Hamilton Avenue is priority one. We could walk away with only having to pay about $25,000 for the entire project. So that would be priority one. Of course, we could walk away with paying as much as $532,
568.
$568. So, and with that risk of any payment, it would not be part of the interest-free loans that we typically get for street projects. But right now, interest rates are pretty low, so, but again, with that being a number one priority, we would be able to, we think we would get that project. The second project is Forest, south to the wetlands. And then I think we're picking up a piece of, what is it?
Madison.
Madison,
Mhm.
yes. And so that would be the second priority. And I'm going to leave the percentage open right now, but the last conversation, we were talking about either 30 or 40%.
Right.
And then the third project would be Compton Road. And again, I will leave that percentage open. So that would be the priority. Does anybody have any concerns, first of all, about the priority?
Nope.
Okay. So the second piece is what are folks' thoughts about the percentage of matching percentage? So the thought is Forest at 30%. If you go up to 40%, you might get it, but is it worth an extra 100,000, 120,000, right? Is it 1.2 million, Bill, or?
1.3,
Okay,
it includes engineering, so, yeah, 1.2.
1.2, so about
120,000.
for an extra 120,000, we might be able to get it done a year sooner. Again, that's interest-free for loans. Or do we go 30, and maybe it doesn't get accepted, but we know where we are for the next go-around for the next year? Now, that would push it to 2021 request, right? 2022?
2021 request, 2022.
Yeah. So that would be 2021 request, 2022 construction.
Well, that project was submitted last year at 20% and nearly got approved.
Yes.
So my
But it
suggestion.
was that a number two last year or number?
It was.
Yeah, it was a
Number
number
two,
two
yeah.
because Hamilton Avenue is kind of
Right.
jumping over. Okay,
That's a good point, Bob.
yep. So at
30% then.
30%?
30%.
That's my suggestion, yeah.
The only, what I don't remember is what got it up there so high? Was it
Condition.
condition?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the condition hasn't gotten any better, so.
Sometimes they miraculously do.
yeah.
Depending on who looks
Every
at it.
year,
And in all-
it's graded every year. And I think there's different members on that committee. But anyway, I digress.
Okay. And I know the west side of Forest, as you're going south on Forest, I mean, there's nothing there as far as curb and gutter, and it's pretty messy.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll get lucky. So how does 30% sound to everybody?
Sounds good.
Bill, do you need a motion or?
I mean, as long as, I don't know if you guys can do a motion, as long as we got it right in the minutes too, just so we can refer back to it.
Okay,
And the only other thing I might want to have Melanie add, because we have talked about this too, that, we also asked for municipal road funding dollars.
yes.
For projects, and we talked about doing that for Hamilton as well.
yes.
So I was just kind of jotting it down to make sure maybe if this is how Melanie has it in the minutes, I think that would be fine. So this is our priorities for round 33 of the OPWC application.
So, but let's step back for Melanie's sake in the minutes. So on Hamilton Avenue, is everybody okay with using the Hamilton County Municipal Road funds to help pay for the cost of Hamilton Avenue?
I think we
Okay.
have to do that.
Yeah, that's what
Oh,
gets
yeah.
that's what gets it down. And
Right.
again, municipal, MRF funds aren't guaranteed. It's just money that they distribute it. We did get it for, Adams, but that was a couple years ago because we're sitting on that $88,000 still. So it's every few years. That's not a guarantee, but it's a request. And, so, yeah.
Okay.
And it has to be like a street like some of the streets don't qualify. Mainly they're for through streets. So, you know, like a cul-de-sac or something like
We
that.
talked about that with Elizabeth.
Right,
That was
right.
one of our
Yeah.
issues with a couple of the streets, yeah.
Yep.
Now, you said Compton's the third priority,
Yes,
and we didn't talk about a percentage.
Yeah.
not yet. Right, and that's what we're gonna do next.
Oh,
But
okay.
I just wanted to loop back to Hamilton Avenue, so we kind of have closure on that.
Okay.
So Compton Road then, and that would be from Hamilton west to the border.
Correct.
Where do we want to be with that? 30%, 40%?
I'm thinking 40% to see how it goes. Then we'll change it next year.
No, I think you want to go 20 or 30 to see how it goes, and
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. I had
Well,
it backwards.
I would say 30.
Well, is it worth another, Compton Road is 1 million?
1.16, yeah,
Okay.
1,160,000.
Is it worth an additional $110,000 to get it done a year earlier potentially?
We're not going to get it, not going to get 3 projects.
Right.
Well, okay. And possibly not.
Because really what we're looking to do is get it scored. And
Yeah.
Correct.
Bob brought up a great example. It gives us some thought at how we do it next year, right? I mean, we did Madison, you know, for us as a second priority. I can't remember if it was a 20 or 30. I can't remember.
20, I
Was it a
think.
20? And we nearly got it funded. So I think as a second priority with a 30%, we ought to be in pretty good shape. And so that's what kind of doing Compton, like you said, make it a third priority, 20%. We score it, we see where we're at, and then we have better vision next year of whether we need to do a 30 or a 40% match.
Yep. So, but the one thing with Hamilton Avenue kind of sliding in there, it kind of pushes the program back a year. So just be aware of that.
Hopefully not, because we try to do one a year, and
Yeah.
Hamilton be an extra.
Yes, but I guess, yeah, Hamilton is an extra if we get forced, but then again,
I just can't wait
when
till
we
we
come
have
back
two
next
street
year,
projects going on at the
this
same
could
time. and
potentially
everybody-
push the remainder of Madison back, right? If we don't go aggressively after 2, Compton and Madison.
Won't be able to drive anywhere.
So,
We want to take advantage of that money we could get, you know, for
Absolutely.
Hamilton,
And
so.
have-
yeah, yes, it's too big of a,
Right.
it's too lucrative.
So what percentage are you thinking about for Compton Road?
We're concerned about just getting us scored, then
20%.
Right.
We're looking at
20%.
20%?
How it would score.
Yeah.
I said 30, Bill said 20.
I don't care.
If we get it, if we would happen to get it as a third project, I mean,
Yeah.
we'll pay the 30%.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Well, I mean, we'll put it on the loan.
Go for 30, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Are we good?
Going 30?
30?
Yep. Okay,
And these will be listed in the application as one, first, second, and third?
Correct. When they submit, they'll submit it as priority 1, priority 2, and priority 3 in the matches. You want to review, Mel, or you think you got it?
I got the priority 1, Hamilton Avenue, using MRF. Priority number 2, Forest Madison, matching 30%. Priority number 3, Compton Road, matching 30%.
Right. And the only thing I would add to that, Hamilton, is using MRF funds and urban,
Urban.
it is the Irving pavement
yes.
funds. Just so 5 years from now, when you look back on that, you'll have a recollection of how you funded it.
And the urban paving fund, there's no strings attached?
We've already got it. We've already been awarded it.
Okay. But no strings came attached with that other than just paying for what, our engineering part or?
Right.
All right.
Okay, any more discussion on that? We got it straightened out. How about other old business, council?
Oh, I guess I do have one for old business. We've not heard anything back. I read it in the minutes. We've not heard anything back from the state on Halloween.
No, they haven't
So we're
canceled
still
it.
6 to 8 on Saturday night. Okay.
The trunk or treat is at the Seward Avenue,
Yeah, at the Knights of Columbus
Knights of
Hall,
Columbus, Seward Avenue. Okay,
Saturday, 6 to 8.
yeah. New business, council.
Ross, I have one thing.
Yes.
The police chief in his report mentioned the new dog warden service, and I do just want to bring that up. You all are aware of the issues we had on Forest. What you might not be aware of is that was really the, kind of the last straw for the county to get rid of the old dog warden services and go with a new company. After we had dealt with the issue there and then a dog died, that really became one of the motivating factors to change that. And I have to say, I had a lot of communications with the last company that ran it, and was very unhappy with the way things were being done. And I've had 3 interactions with the new group, Cincinnati Animal Care, just within the past month, and I've been amazed at how helpful they've been. It's been terrific. So I do want to give them credit. And it's just know that it's not the SPCA anymore. When I called dispatch, they actually said, we'll patch you through to the SPCA, because even they're used to saying that. It's been that for 50 years. It is not that anymore. It is Cincinnati Animal Care. The county pound is still where it used to be down in Northside. But the warden, but it's now run by Cincinnati Animal Care, and the dog warden service is Cincinnati Animal Care. So I'm actually going to be scheduling a meeting with them soon. I did reach out, so I'll let you know how that goes. One of my issues that I had was a lack of sharing communication in the past, since it was kind of a weird situation where when we were having these issues, we know that we have, ordinance on the books on how many dogs you can have at a residence. Well, they were responding to calls, and they wouldn't share their reports sometimes with us. As a private company, they didn't have to. They weren't public record. So that was really a problem that was occurring that I dealt with. And this group has been much more open so far. In fact, they're already putting monthly reports of how many animals they're putting down and why they put them down. They're being very transparent. So, so far, it's a good start. I'm hoping to meet with them shortly to talk about, relationship here. But I do know multiple dogs in Mount Healthy that have been lost, have been found, because they are using social media to actually post the dogs that are turned in or are stray and found, whereas that wasn't done in the past. So we had one resident on Clover Nook just recently, had a great interaction with them and let me know. So just want to put that out there. Their phone number is on the back. They can also call Hamilton County Dispatch if you need, stray dog or report abuse, et cetera. But it's been a good change so far.
Okay, any other new business?
I have to apologize, this probably should have been under old business, but, I've mentioned this before, and it's been in discussion. We have to submit, it's around December, the community development, not the community development COVID money, but the normal 3-year cycle. And I know we probably have, it's probably fallen off the side. I haven't really had any feedback. A resident, Jim Lowenberg, had given an idea, and I know Jamie was just talking about, working with maybe getting funds as we allow, we took a real dip in the gas tax collections. It started off great, and then COVID really drove that down. Allow us to build up some funds, to get a game plan together, what we want to do in the alleys. And, you know, Jim's discussion is more of a, you know, have a plan of a wayfinding, you know, infrastructure improvement, not just blacktopping. So I think that's a pretty good idea. I don't know if anybody has anything else, but we really probably ought to kind of settle in on something so I can make sure I get the application in before December. But, you know, just in the past, we've used it from parking lots to lots of park projects. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why we have such a great park over there. I mean, council and the administration was very, very focused and supportive of getting that funding to upgrade a lot of the stuff over in the park and do the things we've done, which is great. So anyway, we want to kind of finalize that at the next meeting.
So, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Was Jim's suggestion then, the parking and alleys that are close to the business district, is that what it was?
Well, his recommendation, we've talked about that, right, about maybe even like taking out, you know, using those, building up some of the funds from the gas tax, and then maybe even taking out to have a big impact to, but his suggestion is to maybe get funding through the community development to work with a planner that will put together more than just let's blacktop the streets, a wayfinding, landscaping. What can we do to kind of, yes, we know we need the blacktop, but is there, maybe an alley should be shut down and it becomes more of a pedestrian area versus, you know, cars, because it's not really being utilized with cars, you know, those kinds of things have a kind of a, yes, but the main focus would be, you know, you get further and further out. Yeah, I mean, some of the residential areas, all we need is some, you know, instead of the gravel is some blacktop, but, you know, that would be more of a focus on the downtown.
Yeah.
Part of his recommendation as well is he was kind of thinking of one specific guy, just because there is a firm that met with us for the main a couple times, with Jim and I, and so there was the architect looking at the main, but he also brought in a friend of his who has a firm that does hardscaping, and that's what he does.
Is that Art Hup, or was it Art
Art
Hup?
Hup was the architect. This
Yeah.
was a friend of his or a business associate of his. Yeah, that has a different business, and they've worked with like, I know Playhouse in the Park and other places like that, where, you know, they don't just make a sidewalk, but they make it a feature, you know, a sidewalk where you want to go, so.
The human nature was that.
Yeah, human nature.
Yeah, and again, it would have to be, it's not like this guy, we'd have to get, quotes in, from companies, but yeah, that would be kind of the direction we want to go with it. So if there's any other, or it could be a couple things, it could be, you know, we typically can get somewhere between $80,000 to $100,000, maybe it's, you know, half goes to that and the rest goes to, a street project, anything, but we need to really kind of think about that before it gets away from us, so. Any input you have would be great.
Ross?
Yes, Mr. Redding.
So, Bill, do you recall the I'll call it, for lack of a better term, the work session we had over in the community room, and we brought in some professionals in that, and they actually had recommended something like this and kind of marry it in with the park to kind of, you know, have continuity in whatever we do all the way over to the park, so it kind of draws you back and forth between the park and just something to think about while we're going through this. I don't know if you recall that.
I do. I
been
think
quite
what
a
we were
few
talking
years ago.
about, it was quite a few years ago, but yeah, we brought in different developers to get feedback on ideas. We did a walkthrough, yeah. Mhm.
You have a better memory than I do.
It's failing, but it's there.
Any other new business, council?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Ms. Lingo's made a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Mr. George? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, you're welcome.